All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the 8mm Syndicate. I'm Anubhav,
And I am Achyuth.
and today, are we loco for Loka?
I don't think I'm loco for Lokah, but let's dissect this one.
I think the world is definitely a little bit loco for Loka if the box office reports are anything to go by.
The full name of the film for the uninitiated is Lokah Chapter 1 Chandra. So this is part one of a universe, as is what everyone wants to do these days.
Yeah, now shared universes are the biggest fad, but I think this film does some things right. For the uninitiated, Loka is a superhero universe that is spearheaded by Dominic Arun and it's produced by Dulquer Salman's Wayfarer film. It's a Malayalam film, but it's been translated and doing well in regions that speak Tamil and Telugu, and even its Hindi version is doing well. Basically, this film is about three bachelors who live in this rented apartment, and across from them, a strange woman starts renting an apartment, and the strange woman is hiding a massive secret. So these guys they get caught up in her secret. Well, then it becomes a battle of good over evil, and we are introduced to this sort of extended universe, which is a bit like John Wick meets Universal Monsters.
Actually, it feels more like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen to me.
From here onwards, the conversation will be very spoilerific. So if you haven't seen the film or if you want to avoid spoilers, then give us a listen after you've seen the film. So for those who have already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, here's what we think of it. You said you weren't that enthused with the film.
Allow me to explain why. So, firstly, that wasn't the feeling I had throughout the film. Throughout its first half, I was pretty intrigued.
Yeah, so the first half, I think an error with this film is the first scene itself sort of spoils what the film is going to be about. Now, when I went in like pretty much blind. I had no idea what the film was about. And the first half, basically, other than the very first scene, it's basically about these three loafers who befriend this lady who stays next to their, apartment building, and how they slowly enter into her world, which is this supernatural and fantastic. The first half is very comic booky in its colors and its hues and its lighting especially. It's basically like reading a comic book.
And it's also in its tone, it's very humorous in its tone, even though the first scene shows a lot of stakes and everything, and you know that there is a large battle, cosmic battle, something or the other that's looming on the horizon. But the first half is just like a buddy comedy film in a way.
The mystery about this woman who's moved in called Chandra is very intriguing and it really draws you in. And I think it worked really well for me because I had no clue what it was. And every clue that was being shown was sort of inching me towards a direction that I really liked.
Same, me too. Little by little, I was like, is this really going where I think it is? Her apartment's refrigerator has no food, just ice packs, like insulated packs with something in them.
And she's putting up like newspapers over her windows.
At first, I thought, okay, she just doesn't want prying eyes at all. That was also a sign. They make it a point to show that she's removing her contact lenses. So,
Yeah. At her part time job, she's like, I prefer night shifts.
yes,
So you have all these clues. And then there is the most pivotal scene. I think the actor's name is Naslin, right?
Naslin, yeah.
So Naslin invites Chandra to a party, and the first thing she does, she rings the bell. She looks gorgeous in white, which is an important part of her mythology. But she doesn't enter until she's allowed permission to come in. Okay, now I'm convinced. Now it makes sense.
Which supernatural or mythical entity requires permission to enter, can operate only at night, does not eat food? I wonder.
And has supernatural strength.
It's a fucking vampire.
Yes. So the first half basically introduces you to her being a vampire and also her busting a whole organ stealing ring, which is her where we see her being a superhero and kick major ass. That was the first half, and I was mostly delighted by it.
The first half really takes its time. It shows quite a lot of moments of interaction between the three loafer guys, between Naslin and Chandra, between Chandra and some of the other characters. So the first half really breathes and allows you to settle into the world that Chandra now finds herself in, and Naslin also finds himself in. These three loafer characters, right? They are nothing new to Malayalam cinema. Malayalam cinema is filled with comedies, especially in recent times. It's filled with comedies about young dudes in Bangalore who do nothing but party and loaf around.
It's taking you from familiar territory and very nicely leading you into this unfamiliar genre territory.
While it's going to the familiar territory, because of the time it allows us to spend with these characters, they don't just feel like a repetition of something that we've seen over and over again in many Malayalam films. They just feel like real dudes who have some vague idea of a goal but also don't have much motivation.
Yeah, they're very aimless.
And that makes their participation in the larger plot and achieving an aim that much more important. So the first half actually, with the time it spends, does a great job of setting up these three guys. But on the other hand, the first half doesn't really tell me much about who Chandra is other than the lore around her.
Yeah, I mean, Chandra remains a bit of an enigma. She's a bit like, she's kind of an action star where the story is not really about her. I mean, if you had to break it down in a screenplay way, then the protagonist would probably be Naslin, and the arc is his relationship with Chandra and how it undulates and peaks.
Correct.
So Chandra is bit of a, I mean, she doesn't really have an arc as such. She just exists, and we are invited into her world through the vehicle of these three guys.
Yeah. And the fact that she exists, I mean, one more plot point is that since she's a vampire, she's immortal, but she keeps moving from one place to another approximately every 20 years because she eventually outs herself and her powers by interfering and doing the right thing. And so then she has to go on the run and everything. But we never see what all she's been up to. So we don't understand, apart from the fact that, hey, she's a good guy, we don't know what her values are, what makes her tick, what her feelings towards different people are, how she would react. She's a pretty blank slate, to be honest.
Okay, so let's get into the lore of the Chandra character.
Her name is Kalliyangattu Neeli. This character is literally taken from Malayalam folklore stuff that I have grown up as a child hearing. In Malayalam, Neeli is what they call a yakshi. Now, as far as I know, yakshi is a term that's used to refer to any female ghost that's malevolent in a way. Kalliyangattu Neeli, as a yakshi, she starts haunting the village of Kadamattam, which is a place near Kochi and whatnot. And all the villagers who go into the woods, they see this woman in a white sari.
In her first appearance at Naslin's home, she's wearing the white outfit. So that's like a callback to her origins, I guess.
True. The lore is that in that village, at night when villagers are walking home from the fields and the forests after work and whatnot, she would appear and she would say, I'll walk home with you. And then, well, they never reach home. What happens is the villagers reach out to this very famed exorcist. He's the priest of the Kadamattam church. So he's called Kadamattattu Kattanar. And as per the lore, what he does is he eventually finds Kalyangattu Neeli and then he defeats her by hammering a nail into her head, something like that. That's the official lore of who she is as per the folk tales and whatnot. And she and Kadamatta Katanar are such well-known tales that there have been many, many, many TV serials made about these characters. So you will be hard pressed to find a Malayali who doesn't know these two names.
So it's a very well known IP. And they didn't reveal this before the film, actually. They didn't reveal it in any of the trailers.
They did not. We just know her as Chandra. But then in the film, they reveal that she's Neeli. And I was like, oh, so they have taken that Kalyangattu Neeli and made her into this Chandra vampire. And they have taken that Kadamatattu Kattanar and they've also changed him as a guy who finds her but doesn't kill her. He just stages her death because he understands that she's actually a good person who just happens to have supernatural powers that scares all the villagers. So then he stages her death, but actually resurrects her, saves her, and keeps her safe and recruits her into his group. So in a way, Kadamatta Katanar in this film is like the Nick Fury.
Yeah, so in the original folklore, that whole aspect of her being a sort of from an oppressed tribe in ancient India and going into a cave and all that, that wasn't there in the folklore.
Not, I don't know about all that. There must be
Okay.
lore about her backstory, but unfortunately, whatever exposure I have had to their story, they've all been from stories centered around Kadamattita Katanar.
Oh, okay.
So I've only always seen her as an already existing female ghost.
So that's also interesting because all these stories about vampires and straight from Carmela or Dracula or stories about female ghosts, all these tales about monsters, they are basically about a fear of the other, and all these ancient tales that we've had.
Yeah.
Even the tale of Kali and all that in Bengali mythology, there's a moment where Kali goes fucking
Berserk.
crazy, and it's about berserk, and it's about how to get this woman under control. It's basically like all these stories, and even this Neely story that you've told me, all these stories have just been there to sort of suppress
Women.
women, to suppress minorities. There is a sort of Dalit tribe somewhere, I think somewhere near Maharashtra only, that considers Ravan their either Ravan or Mahisasur their deity, and the Dasera is like a day of mourning for them because Mahisasur and Ravan and all, they were also based on oppressed tribes or like just people who are different.
Yes.
I mean, it's interesting that right now we are seeing such I wouldn't say revisionist, but like minorities and women and like storytellers are just re-owning these paranormal stories and these monster tales. Like recently, you can see with Nosferatu, which is about a vampire, but it's about how the original tale of Dracula is an anxiety over immigrants mingling with your women, because the two major victims of Dracula are women, Mina Murray and Lucy Westerner. Let's just go to Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, where he's turned Dracula into this romantic anti-hero of sorts. And a lot of what Mina does is very consensual, and she wants to be with Dracula. She's drawn to Dracula. And her craziness, it's portrayed as justifiable lust, but not, female hysteria. Or even Nosferatu, which just released like a couple of months ago. The Mina character in Nosferatu, it's also about how she's a woman out of time and how she would be worshipped as a priestess if she were born in any other time, and her link with the darkness and society's discomfort about it. So it's basically like re examining these tales of the supernatural that were sort of created to re establish and reinforce the status quo. I see Lokah also breaking the chains of the status quo a bit by turning Neely, who was this monstrous element in the folklore, into something of a champion of the oppressed. In the film, she gains her powers while running away from oppressive king.
From the royal guards who are trying to catch and kill these bunch of kids who happen to
Yeah.
quote unquote trespass onto the royal temple. Tribals are not allowed to enter there, only the king is.
Yeah, it's again casteism.
She's a victim of casteism.
She's a victim of misogyny.
And because they did the unpardonable crime of entering the temple, the entire tribe is, pretty much held at spear point, not gun point.
Pretty much massacred, I guess.
Yeah, they are about to be massacred, and she sees her father get killed, and her mother's about to get killed.
She's unable to rescue her mother.
But then she runs away. When she's running away and she hides in a cave, she is bit by.
No, she's bit before.
She's bit before, sorry, yeah.
She's hiding with her mother. She's bit before, and then she sort of slowly transforms into a vampire. And then there is an amazing sequence. I think this is all right at the interval point where there is an animated sequence that shows her traveling through the years.
And growing from the little girl to the Chandra that we know.
Little girl into Kalyani Priyadarshan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we move into the animated bit, right, where she's across the ages, across continents, she's traveled and everything. I was pretty hyped at this point.
I'd also like to point out one gripe I have about how her backstory is explained. Till now, we are following the story of these three boys and Chandra and this organ trade villains and a cop and blah blah blah. And then suddenly we cut to this writer dude who's telling a bedtime story to his granddaughter, and this bedtime story happens to be the origin story of her character. This felt like a forced segue.
I will tell you why it makes sense.
Why?
Because Sunny, the Naslin character, is discovering who she is. At the same time, the audience is discovering who she is. The audience, of course, knows more. But in effect, the same machinery of cinema is operating, where Sunny is making a discovery that we know that he'll discover.
Yeah.
But like the character of Sunny, we are discovering something that we didn't know about her that makes her so much more in magnitude compared to what we thought. Like we already knew she was superpowered, right?
Yeah.
Sunny didn't know she was superpowered. Sunny is discovering that she has superpowers and a vampire, and we are discovering not only is she superpowered, she is this character that we've known all our lives. So that is why it sort of worked for me there, because the sense of discovery that the moment was playing with was not discordant between the character and the audience.
No, I agree with you about the cinematic machinery working and everything. I just wish that
It's not very organic. Like that character appears out of nowhere. Yeah.
I just wish instead it had happened through Sunny's story itself or some way where he is told these things. I don't know. I'm nitpicking. It just felt like suddenly we are dropped into a random character we've never seen before. We just heard his name and he's telling a bedtime story, and oh, the bedtime story is about her.
Here's the thing, it works.
It works. Yes. I admitted that I am nitpicking.
No, he does come out of nowhere, but the exposition he delivers is useful to the film. So it's a bit clunky, but it, like, overall, with the flow of the film, it works.
Hmm.
And then the second half appears. I was slightly disappointed. It knocks the wind off the first half sails a bit. It's still a decently mounted and really well made film in the second half. It's just that it felt more like an advertisement for the Lokaverse than it did a satisfying conclusion for this particular story.
Yeah. They have sacrificed this story in order to set up the universe, which I feel is like a major disservice. You don't need to do that. You can still center all the other universe wala elements tied to this story. I don't know why they didn't do that. Instead, what happens is they introduce another supernatural character who's going to be the protagonist in the next film, Tovino Thomas's character, and they dedicate a full focus only on him, and then they do a cameo of Dulkar, who's going to be the third character.
They also show off like random characters. Like, I don't know why Sobin Shahir appears like randomly for one frame. I'm like, what the hell? What is he supposed to be?
Oh yes, Sobin Shahir appears for like one shot. I'm like, who is he? What is he doing?
So it's very baffling. But let's talk about the story that the film still has for Chandra, which is they have to go into hiding and they are pursued by this misogynist cop. I love this character because he's a total asshole.
So do I.
Like, he's this misogynist, God fearing.
Yes.
He's like the straight arrow cunt of a cop who is like basically the embodiment of every Sanghi dude out there, just minus the beard. He's like if Adarsh Balak grew up, you know. But the funny thing is, as a cop, he sort of hates young people, he hates young women, he hates how they party, he hates how they drink, he hates that they consume ganja and smoke cigarettes and all that stuff. And we see that.
He just assumes that if women and men are partying, it's a sex party. I mean, that's the level of indoctrination in his head.
Yes, we all know someone like that, I think.
I don't, not anymore, thankfully.
We have dealt with someone like that, I'm sure, in our lives.
Yeah, we have.
Since this guy hates everything except for, I guess, worshipping God or something.
And his mother.
Yeah, but we'll come to that. He loves his mother, but love and hate are two sides of the same coin.
His mother has no dialogues.
So since he is this person who has kept his body clean, he's the only person who can survive the infection of vampirism. So Chandra fights him and bites him at one point, but she's interrupted before she can kill him. The bite infects him and he gains vampiric powers. So he becomes an equal of Chandra. And since he is like this very fresh fledgling,
Young vampire.
since he's a young vampire, he has like a burst of energy that can defeat Chandra basically.
In fact, he can even survive during sunlight.
Yeah, so he becomes this arch enemy of Chandra, and Chandra is this free spirited woman who is a protector of women, super powered. And so the bad guy makes for a perfect foil, conservative, narrow minded, asshole cop who is also a vampire. So I think it's got an intriguing villain. Like he's the direct opposite of Chandra.
And they build him up great from the first half itself, right? From the beginning,
Yeah, his first scene is amazing where
where a random woman is being stalked by some people and she's scared for her life, and then she finally sees a cop car, and you and I also as an audience member was like, ah, finally she's safe. And then they do a close up of cop 1, and then they pan to cop 2, which is this guy. And first I'm like, is he going to be a badass who's going to come out and protect her? But no, he's like, why are you walking out so late? Oh, which friend's house do you need to go to at this hour?
yeah, he's moral policing.
Yeah, he's moral policing. And then I was like, oh, god damn, this guy is a prick.
Yeah, he's like the, as I said, the complete opposite of the ethos of Chandra. Like what Chandra is as a story device in reference to the mythology that has come before.
He's the status quo maintainer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hmm.
So he makes for an interesting villain. Nachiappa is the name of the cop.
Hmm.
I mean, he goes around pretty much like assaulting almost everyone. He assaults cops after his vampire powers. He assaults cops.
Yeah, why he feels that now that he's a vampire and he's immortal, he's got these powers, the only person whom he's loved the most is his mother, and so he wants her to live with him like him. So he bites her, but she's old. She cannot survive the vampire virus that he was able to survive. So she dies. And initially, he is not even after Chandra, like he wants to just eliminate her. No. What he really wants from Chandra is he knows that she is part of some collective. He knows that there is some numero uno above her. And he wants to find that numero uno, get rid of him, and become the numero uno. He's become that
Hmm.
power hungry.
He gets these delusions of grandeur.
Exactly. It could be this young vampiric power that's coursing through his veins. Could be something else.
Yeah.
But that's what he really wants. That's why he's now coming after Chandra. That's why Chandra has to fight him and defeat him so that he doesn't get to her superior, whom we only see through a shot of his hand. And we hear his booming voice for one sentence.
I actually liked the action of this film quite a lot.
So do I.
I mean, any action scene with VFX, you have the potential to get pretty cringe. I did not cringe even a millisecond of this film. I thought it was all very tactile and the physicality of it was really nice. The superhero ness of it was well communicated.
Kalyani is young enough to move well in the non VFX bits where she's doing the action. The VFX bits also, they're cleverly like in dark situations where you don't see the flaws of it inherently, and they're used sparingly in quick motions, like when she's jumping from top height or something like that. But they use a lot of in person action and stunt choreography and stuff. So it really worked for me too, the action bits.
Yeah, you know what clever thing they did with Kalyani in this film is that firstly they gave her a jacket. So what the jacket does is it adds another level of follow through motion to your action.
Hmm.
Once you move your jacket, the half of the coat will move differently, like it will be pulled by inertia, right?
Yeah.
And that adds a layer of motion to it. And also they cleverly colored her hair red in certain, like they added red streaks to her hair. You know how the Insomniac
Hmm.
Spider-Man
Hmm.
has like this white emblem so you can follow it better? Like that's the logic, but everyone disables it. But it's the same thing. Like once you have some color to follow on the screen, right? The action is much more pronounced.
Hmm.
So every head tilt and all that. So it just
Hmm.
like reminds you of the motion that much better. I really like the Tovino Thomas Chatan scene where he's basically doing like it's basically like seeing an episode of The Mask, like where there's multiple Tovino Thomases going around, like fooling around, doing winning using magic tricks basically.
Trickster shit.
He's also based on like a mythology as we sort of researched. He's based on Vishnu Maya Koti Chatan, who is like deity Chatan figure.
I don't know how to explain Chatans. It's all over the place. Long back, the first 3D film in Malayalam to ever be released was My Dear Kutti Chatan. It's like a little kid who's Kutti Chatan, small Chatan, the little trickster who befriends some other kids and they get up to some shenanigans and everything. So that's all I know about Chatans. I guess we'll have to wait to see the next film to understand the lore.
So the only other place I, as a non-Malayali, have heard of Chatans is Brahma Yugam starring Mammootty,
Yes.
where Mammootty plays a Chatan. And this Chatan is like this sort of Dracula-esque figure who has trapped two people in his house. A weird thing emerges out of Mammootty at one point, and that is the real body of the Chatan. So I don't know. From what I've glommed, the Chatan feels like what the Irish folk would refer to as the fairy, which are these sort of trickster creatures, sort of goblin-like, but not exactly goblin-like. Yeah, it was really cool seeing something different to shake up the film, even though it like has very little place in the story. I actually liked Thomas as the weird Chatan. It rejigged up the film a little bit, even though he came out of nowhere.
Yeah. So I need to address one elephant in this room or about Lokah, which is all the people who are going about saying that, oh, this is the greatest superhero film out of Indian cinema. Malayalam cinema is teaching people, teaching Bollywood, teaching this industry, that industry, blah, blah, blah. All of that is hyperbole because there is one superhero film that released in 2021 from the Malayalam film industry that is, I feel, leagues superior to Loka. That one was Minnal Murali, starring Tovino, who's the Chatan over here.
Tovino Thomas.
That film does not try to establish any universe, even though you know that it's rife open for a sequel. It doesn't spend time trying to build up to it. It's just busy telling its own story in its own world. By the time the film is over, you feel like you have lived in that small village. You have grown to know who this Jason guy is before he became Minnal Murali, why he chose to become Minnal Murali, why he chose to adopt that identity in that name. And it has one of the best villains I can hope for. I love the villain in Minnal Murali.
Yeah.
He is such a tragic character.
Minal Murali, right? Both the hero and the villain, they genuinely feel like ordinary people. Like you would meet this person in the street who are given superpowers.
They are both hit by the same lightning.
And what happens when these two forces, when these two people who are like pretty much normal people whose likes and dislikes and whose personalities are sort of exaggerated by the powers that they have, that leads to the clash basically.
Yeah, one interesting point to note. I was rewatching Minnal Murali with my wife. She was watching it for the first time. And she and I had exactly opposite reactions to the villain, Shibu. She thought he was an asshole. I was like, he is just a product of his environment. He has been abandoned and hated and marginalized from childhood. How do you not fill up with rage at that? I mean, Akira is literally that. After a point, when society doesn't give a shit about you, you are like, why should I give a shit about society?
Yeah.
I only give a shit about what I need.
Yeah, that's true. He did feel like a very tragic figure.
And he's such a tragic figure. He loses everything. And he's gone mad.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not that whether he's a tragic figure or a hateable figure is sort of irrelevant. That is very subjective. What matters is that he's a very compelling figure.
He is very compelling.
And even Minal Murali, despite being a sort of Krishna archetype kind of superhero, he's sort of jovial and a chill guy, he's also got a pretty compelling arc.
He's got a proper arc.
Yeah.
In a way, you can say coming of age for Jason.
Yeah.
From jokester, tailor's son to someone who decides that, hey, I want to do this. He has found his purpose. Initially, it was just about running away, leaving that small village for America.
Yeah.
Everything America. But then he finds his purpose about staying here, being on watch for whenever he's needed.
So, in terms of superhero films, the way my ranking feels now, going from worst to best for Indian superheroes, I would say the worst is kind of Krish. It's kind of just there. I like the origins of Krish, the superhero. I do not like Koi Mil Gaya. I think I would put Loka after that. Then I would put Entiran. And then I would put Minal Murali. I think Murali tops it for me.
Minal Murali, honestly, I mean, even if you're not looking at just Indian films, Minal Murali for me is up there as one of the best superhero films I've seen.
Yeah, it's one of the best superhero films. I'm absolutely in agreement.
Honestly, it's right up there with Spider-Man 2 and Dark Knight and all of that.
Not Dark Knight. We just had a whole episode about this.
I mean, up there in the same broad league, okay?
Okay. Yeah, I'd put it on par with the first Spider-Man, but I haven't seen it in a while. I think this is one thing that worked against it is that it released directly on Netflix. Imagine if it had come out in theaters.
No, that wasn't its fault. Firstly, it started production in 2019, then the first wave happened, production halted, then it resumed, then the second wave happened, production halted again. Then, after the second wave, they had built this whole set for a Christmas celebration fair, carnival. That's where the final act takes place.
Yeah, yeah.
And that set had been vandalized and burned down by right wing Hindutva goons saying, "We don't want so much Christianity over here in Kerala." I'm like, bro, you did the shit before the villain could do it.
Yeah, but I think more people should, if there's anything you take from this conversation, like, yeah, Loka has made 200 crores. We are getting the Lokaverse. Go and watch it. It's a very fun film. It's a very fine film if you haven't seen it. But if you haven't seen Minal Murali, please log into your Netflix now. Watch Minal Murali. Talk about it. Spread the gospel of Minal Murali because I love the film. I think it definitely ranks amongst one of the best Indian superhero films, one of the best superhero films, period. See, my thing with Malayalam cinema is that it's producing consistently good works, but like a lot of the films I watch and I'm like, this is good for India. Like
Yeah.
it's not great. But then like you have some films like the films of Lijo Pellisseri that are great, and then Angamali Diaries, which is a Lijo Pellisseri film.
Which is him only.
Yeah. No, or Kumbhalangi Nights, or you get the odd Brahma Yugam, which is like kind of crazy. Like Brahma Yugam was also well supported by, I think, the Kerala film audience.
Oh, yeah, it was a huge hit.
That film would not have been a hit in Hollywood even, or even in like Bollywood, so definitely not.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a testament to how good the Kerala audience is. They go for films based on their content, based on their novelty. They don't just go to like blow off steam, I feel, like a lot of the Bollywood audiences.
No, they do. Let's not paint an overly rosy picture over here. There are quite a lot of
Yeah.
absolute trash films that a lot of people go to, a lot of people watch. There are quite a lot of films that are considered great by the masses here, but are also very problematic in how they approach characters who show misogyny, patriarchy, and all of that. The actual globally good Malayalam cinema are still few. But yes, you are right. Even those films will find quite a lot of support and box office returns in Kerala.
Yeah, so filmmakers have an incentive to create like good, like meaningful cinema and novel experiences.
And another aspect is Malayalam cinema is also one of the cheapest film industries in the country. So the average budget of a film is say 3-4 crores. That's it.
Yeah, and Loka was, I think, on the higher end.
The amount of storytellers who can find an avenue to have their stories told is far great. The sample size is far higher in Malayalam film. So that's probably why Malayalam cinema is right now at a peak. But again, every film industry has its peaks and troughs. I'm glad that we are, witnessing the peak of Malayalam cinema.
Yeah.
And I hope that the cash rich Bollywood will climb out of its ass and do something with all the money it's got.
No, it's on the audience, man. Bollywood is suffering because the audience is very weird right now. It's progressive in some ways, but regressive in many ways. So, how do you thread the needle? And then Bollywood also serves the entire North India. So North India has different social mores and values than,
True.
say, Bombay, where it makes most of its money from.
Right.
So it's really difficult. Like, Bollywood is in a tough spot. And I feel like if you watch Telugu and Kannada films, like, the kind of films that are doing well are kind of all these massy.
They're all shit. They're all shit.
Tamil films, you have some intelligent films come through at times, like, not entirely.
But most of them are shit.
Yeah, but not entirely a lost cause. Malayalam cinema is making some really watchable films and some really pretty good films.
Yeah.
I'm glad there is an environment that created something like Lokah. It's a very massy film, but it has the sophistication of something much more intelligent, I feel. I was listening to an interview with Santhi Balachandran, and she seems to be the driving force behind its more progressive values. That's about it from us for Loka. We liked it, we didn't love it, but we love Minal Murali.
But we love Mineral Murali. And if you've stuck with us till now through all the spoilers of Loka, then great. And we've not given any spoilers for Mineral Murali. So if you've not seen it, please, please, please go watch it.
That was the 8mm Syndicate spiel on Loka. If you like this, please subscribe, follow, please spread the word to all your friends, and our socials are on the description. And we'll see you next time, next week. Thank you for listening.
Bye.